The Porsche 959 was arguably the world's fastest and most technically advanced sports car when it first came out in the 1980s. It was built to take part in the infamous Group B rally series, and with a price tag of over $250,000, or almost $600,000 in today's money, only a select few could purchase this car. There are 337 Porsche 959s in the world, each one with a 2.8-liter twin-turbocharged flat-six engine producing 450 horsepower, and capable of getting the car to a top speed of 197 miles per hour. In today's video, we're going to have a look at the owners of this incredible machine, but before we do so, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel for weekly automotive content. But now, let's get into the video. Okay, so the first guy on today's list is Mr. Don Johnson. Don Johnson is an American actor, producer, singer, and songwriter who is most famous for his role in the legendary American TV series Miami Vice. You know, Miami Vice is that one show where the main character drives a white Ferrari Testarossa. Doesn't get much more 80s than that. According to the Rolling Stone magazine, as Miami Vice's Sonny Crockett, the undercover detective and professional stubble cultivator who lived on a houseboat with his pet alligator Elvis, he embodied masculine cool in the era of coke binges and Lamborghinis. So basically he was the Steve McQueen or The Rock of the 1980s. Some other interesting facts about Mr. Don Johnson is that throughout his life he was married 5 times, which is quite impressive. And also in 1986 he won a 1,100-mile long powerboat race up the Mississippi River. And I mean, I don't really know all that much about powerboat racing, but this sounds quite impressive. I don't know the specific spec of Johnson's 959, but apparently he was so excited about the car that even though he was shooting a season of Miami Vice, he decided to fly to Stuttgart, Germany to spec the car personally. Next up on the list is Jerry Seinfeld, and I've already talked about him in my Who Are the Owners of the Porsche 918 episode, so I'm not really going to go into much detail here, but Jerry Seinfeld is an American comedian, actor, and producer who is most well known for his 90s sitcom Seinfeld. The TV series aired in the US for 10 years straight and made Jerry quite a lot of dollars because he was able to purchase a whole Porsche collection, including this stunning white-on-white Porsche 959. Am I the only one who thinks that body-colored wheels are super cool and should make a return in the 2020s? If you agree with me, let me know in the comments below. The Porsche 959 was so sought after back in the day that even some famous and rich people couldn't get a hold of one, and one of those people is a German tennis player, Boris Becker. Apparently, Becker wanted to buy a factory-fresh Porsche 959 straight from the manufacturer, but was denied the allocation, and the conversation probably went something like this. Hey, could I buy this new 450 horsepower, insane, crazy, brutal Porsche 959 supercar? No, the car is extremely fast. You are only 19 years old and will for sure drive it irresponsibly and dangerously. Oh no! Anyway, so Becker did what every other 19-year-old who wanted to buy an extremely rare and expensive Porsche supercar in the 80s would do, and bought one from the resale market. And then drove it extremely irresponsibly and dangerously. Oh yeah, and it was also his first ever car. You know, most other people would be happy with a old Golf or, you know, some Honda or whatever. But no, Boris wanted a Porsche 959 which could do 197 miles per hour, and honestly, I don't blame him. If I won the Wimbledon and several other tennis tournaments while this young, I'd probably also buy a Porsche 959. Another tennis player on today's list is Martina Navratilova. Navratilova was a Czechoslovak tennis player and is the only tennis player in history who was ranked #1 in the world in both singles and doubles for 200 weeks straight. I mean, she won basically everything she could in the 1980s. She won the Australian Open 3 times, the French Open 2 times, the US Open 4 times, Wimbledon 9 times, and that's without even counting the doubles results. To be fair, articles on the internet vary on whether or not she actually owned a Porsche 959, but it would kind of make sense because she owned numerous Porsche 911s, and she stated in one interview that she once drove a Porsche 959 for 2 hours on the German Autobahn and averaged at over 150 miles per hour. I kind of wonder if she shared her love for the 959 with a fellow tennis player from the 80s, Boris Becker. Next up on today's list is Bill Gates. And I mean, if you haven't heard of him, where have you been for the past half a century? Bill Gates, you know, the computer nerd who founded Microsoft, the guy who was the richest man on earth for quite a few years, the guy who has a net worth of around $140 billion, the guy who eats McDonald's with Warren Buffett, the guy who got divorced this year, the guy who warned about the pandemic before the pandemic actually happened, the guy who loves Porsches. That's Bill Gates in a nutshell. And I would especially like to emphasize the last point because he really loves Porsches. And the Porsche 959 is a good example of his love for the brand. Because it wasn't originally sold in the US, because Porsche was unwilling to crash 4 Porsche 959s to comply with the American regulations, and so just decided not to sell them in the US. But Bill Gates wanted one so bad that he imported it nonetheless. The problem was that he has kind of done this illegally, so he spent the next 10 years, hired a whole legal team and basically argued with the policymakers to create an exception for the 959 and allow him to import one into the country. And after more than 10 years, this madman actually did it. I mean, he had to customize this 959 bit to sort of, add some lights and stuff like that that were needed on the US roads. But after more than 10 years, he was finally able to drive his 959 on US roads. That is some real commitment. I mean, in today's day and age, it's not really all that unusual to wait for your newest and coolest hypercar for like 2 years. If you order a Pagani, you have to wait for 2 years. If you order a Koenigsegg, you probably have to wait for 2 years as well. But 10 years, that is a whole different story. I really do hope that Bill enjoyed the 959 in the end. And last guy on today's list is Mr. Herbert von Karajan, who was an Austrian conductor and, same as everyone on today's list, also owned a Porsche 959. In these supercar owner videos, I often mention movie stars, I often mention sports people, I often mention business people, but this is the first conductor that I've ever heard of who owned a supercar. And to be fair, this might have to do with the fact that I don't know any conductors at all. I mean, I literally didn't know about this one, and I don't know about any other one, so maybe I should just read some books about conductors or something, I don't know. Anyway, Herbert von Karajan, and I'm probably butchering his name, but he wasn't just any other, random conductor. He was the lead conductor or principal conductor of the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra for 34 years, and is regarded as one of the greatest conductors of the 20th century. During the Nazi years in Germany and Austria, he was a member of the Nazi Party, but apparently only for career reasons. And then after the war, he basically toured the world and became the well-known conductor that he is today. And in the process, apparently collected a few Porsches here and there. When the 959 came out, he was already in his 80s, but was given the chance to test drive one of these cars, and apparently loved it so much that he ordered an example in Guards Red nonetheless. I'm not really sure for how long he enjoyed it though, because his car was made in 1988 and he died only 1 year later in 1989. Imagine a situation where von Karajan would go for a drive in his Porsche 959 with Boris Becker driving in his Porsche 959, pretty much 60 years younger, both of them in Germany. That would have been so cool. I don't know why this popped in my mind, but yeah, would be really cool. And that is everything for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I for sure enjoyed making it because the 959 is one of my all-time favorite supercars. I just love how sort of underrated it is because, it looks like any other Porsche 911, yet it is so fast and so revolutionary. But anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more automotive content weekly. In the comments below, let me know if you know any other Porsche owners or Porsche 959 owners that I forgot to mention in today's video. And as always, hopefully, see you next time.